What about scalability in your architecture? How do you handle that, and what are some considerations that you're looking at in terms of making sure your application architecture is set that you can scale? Because you're not huge right now, right? But obviously the goal is to be processing, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of more requests than you are, and to keep scaling that up.
Right. So it's also naturally partitioned right now, where our SimpleDB store, we want it to be global. So we always want all of our users to be on just one database, to be readily available to us. On the other hand, since we're set up with retailers, we can actually partition, every retailer's data can actually be completely separated and partitioned from the other. So we could serve traffic for specific clients on specific servers with a different database. So I'm never worried about one particular database having to handle a humongous load. For our consumer data, I think I don't know the internals, obviously, of how I didn't build SimpleDB, so I don't know how it works. But you know, there's always things you can do for a consumer. You could separate out their data, modulo it according to a certain key. So put all your users that end with, you know, this number on this particular user data. So there's still ways to partition the user data. My guess is that SimpleDB probably already does that and kind of hides that from the developer,
right,
having to figure that out by serving it automatically on separate servers without you noticing, and labeling the whole thing as just one big service.
So you anticipate pushing SimpleDB as far as you possibly can. You're just going to keep throwing users at it, and if it starts to cry and scream, then you'll reconsider. But right now, you think that's probably going to suit your scale.
I hope so. I would definitely go with a key value store rather than a SQL store. I think that SQL has a lot of overhead because you need to process queries where you need to query across it and build indexes across it and all the other stuff. And if you want scalability, just being able to store data in different places and partition it out makes a lot of sense. I mean, at Google, we didn't use SQL at all in our backend servers anyways for speech recognition, or even in our web server. So just not really used to thinking of SQL as the automatic database choice, as I think most industry does.
What about the breadth of social data that you have at your disposal from, say, a Facebook API? One of the challenges there is that data is always changing, right? And Facebook is basically changing the schema behind their API and adding fields and deleting fields and probably merging stuff and whatnot. They're known to do that, right?
Right.
Does that give you a lot of headaches and problems?
No, because we didn't choose to store the social data in a SQL store. But it is true, if you wanted to have, we couldn't rigidly define a user profile and assume that there would be these certain fields. We'd always have to be updating our schema and things like that. So SimpleDB is really nice because it doesn't assume a strict user schema. You can still label parts of it, but you don't have to strictly label it that way and predefine it.
Okay.
So that allows us to be really flexible.
So those are a really great complement to each other. The social data you're getting from a not always what you expect Facebook API and the schemaless format of SimpleDB.
Yeah.